Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live the Iron Life. Nice, warm, 20-degree day here in the dirty Jers. The older I get, guys, the softer I get. I cannot take the Jersey winters much longer. I have been dying to get the hell out of here. We're getting closer. Gab and I are working on some things to getting the fuck out of here during the winter months, so we'll see how that goes. But we're not there yet, and so we're going to continue to freeze our asses off in the meantime. And it's good to talk to you guys again. It's been quite some time. It's been at least a month since my last episode. There's just been so much going on with the two kids now. CJ is an absolute lunatic, chasing everybody around with his wiffle ball bat, throwing balls all over the place. We got to dive over little Kai and protect him. Baby Kai had to get surgery on one of his eyes. So he was born with a congenital cataract, which is like a super rare thing. And thank God everything is okay. There wasn't anything more serious. It was just a freak thing that he was born with. So he had to get surgery for that. That went well. We still have some obstacles ahead of us regarding his eye, and we don't know what his vision is going to be like. Is there going to be another surgery or so? He did develop glaucoma. So there's been a lot going on with him, and fortunately, we are right near CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which is one of the best children's hospitals in the world. We're fortunate enough to be just about 90 minutes away, so we've been seeing the top doctors for his surgery and all the follow-up visits. And thankfully, he's doing really well. And otherwise, outside of the eye issue, he is doing fantastic. But it's been a lot of, every other week, going to the doctors, making the trip to Princeton, to Philadelphia. The freaky thing is you got to put a contact in his eye. So Gab has her... I have these fat fingers, so her tiny little fingers get in there. But you have to remove the contact, clean it, put it back in every 2 weeks, which is a freaky thing the first time you do it, trying to put a friggin' contact lens into an infant's eye. That's always a little freaky. So luckily, Gab does that pretty well. But that's been taking up a lot of time. So we've been super busy there. Then last week, I was going to drop an episode, and the entire family got the flu. The entire family but me, because I have the fucking immune system of an alligator, and I did not get it. But CJ, Kai, Gab, sick as hell for a good week. Fever. CJ threw up once. Gab had a nasty cough. So it's been wild the last couple of weeks and months, guys. But here we are. We're back at it. I got one other quick thing to fill you guys in on since my last episode. Now, here's the deal, guys. I'm going to preface this story by saying I do my absolute best to avoid any type of physical conflict, okay? I do my best. The last thing I want to do is get into a fucking street fight at 37, almost 38 years old. However, sometimes people push you. And the other day, so just to paint you the picture here, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short for you. A couple weeks back, we had to take Kai for a follow-up visit down in Princeton. And it's like a 9 a.m. Appointment or 10 a.m. or whatever it is. So morning is a little bit rushed because it's an hour-plus drive. We're ready to go that morning. Our dog had diarrhea. Shit all over our kitchen floor. Great. We have to clean that up. Kind of adds to the stress right before we're ready to leave, where you're going to get late. We're going to be late. We get all the way down to Princeton. So now, it's the middle of the week. So an hour there, an hour plus appointment, an hour back. So it takes up a nice chunk of the day. So I'm already like, all right, we're behind on work. Got to get back, get right into it. So coming back from the visit, already kind of, annoyed at all the stuff going on that day. And I go to get gas, right? And I pull in, and if you guys could picture this, there's the pump. And on one side of the pump is a cone. right? So obviously that pump is out. And there on the other side of that pump was a car who appeared to be getting gas. So I pulled behind that car. That car pulled away and out of the driveway, and I pulled up just like as you normally would do, right? Now, when I pull up, I see a guy who I thought was the gas station attendant. And this guy's like shaking his head and like mumbling something under his breath. And I'm like to Gab, and keep in mind, I got Gab in the back seat with the two kids. CJ's sleeping, and Kai is, 2.5 months at that point, whatever the hell he's doing. So I said to Gab, is this guy talking to me? She goes, I don't know. He looks crazy. And I said, all right, maybe just crazy. I don't know. So he comes back over. And just like this, guys, because I am always incredibly polite, as you could probably imagine, the guy comes back over, and I literally roll down my window, and I, just like this, I say, hey, excuse me, bud, is this pump open? And just friendly like that, excuse me, bud, is this pump open? And the guy starts shaking his head and like mocking me, and he goes, no, man, you see the cone here. Use your brain. And I said, what the fuck did you just say? Right. And then he starts going off. You could have gone to this gas station, to this gas station. He's like pointing at the different gas stations on the corners, right? And I'm like, dude, this is a busy street. Like, you think I saw these fucking cones here as I was pulling into this gas station? Like, and there's a car here. And now the guy's like denying that there was a car. So you could tell this guy's crazy, right? And he starts to push my buttons. He starts to really push, and he starts to get really rude. He was rude from the beginning, saying, use your brain. So, very Jersey-like. I say, you know what, buddy? Go fuck yourself. He didn't like that. So now it starts to get to the point where he's getting pissed, and he starts going crazy. He pulls out his phone, and he starts videoing me. Of course, that's how things work now in 2025. Everybody wants to video you. And he pulls out his phone. He says, what'd you just say to me? So I just repeat the whole process of exactly what happened step by step. And he could see that he wasn't like getting to me because I was being very calm and just explaining to him exactly what happened. So now he starts to cross the line, and he calls me. I forget exactly what he said, but he called me a bitch. So now I said, okay, I could stay in the car. And that's probably the smart thing to do. If hindsight's 20/20, smart thing to do, stay in the car. This guy's crazy. Let's get out of here. Guys, the Jersey in me would not allow me to stay in the car. So I have to apologize to Gab and to my children. So I got out of the car. Now, here's the deal. I didn't get out of the car screaming and yelling. Like, I got out of the car pretty calmly. And I said, what the fuck's your problem? The guy got closer to me, so I put my hands up. For those of you watching on YouTube, put my hands up like this. Not fists up, but hands up to keep my distance. I don't know if this guy's going to swing at me or whatever. So I put my hands up and said, don't take a fucking step closer. What's your problem? And now he starts videoing me again. Now he goes around the car. He's videoing my license plate. There's other people getting gas on the other side of the gas station. He goes over. He's like screaming to those guys. I don't know what the hell he's saying. So I go over to the guys. I'm like, this guy's out of his fucking mind. I don't know what's. I got two kids in the car, and this guy's being a real friggin' jerk off. So now I say to him, you know what, man? Like, I'm trying to de-escalate it a little bit. I can see this guy's nuts. I'm like, you know what? Because he was saying he was going to call the cops. I said, call the cops. Do whatever you need to do. Have a good day. And he goes, I'm not a bitch. So now I'm laughing at him, and he gets a step closer, and I put my hands up again. I say, don't fucking take a step closer, because if you do, we're going to have a real problem. And now the guy's like frantically moving around. He goes, get back in your car. And he's like walking away. And I'm like, all right, man, listen, have a good day. And he goes, no, I won't have a good day. And I said, all right, man, well, continue to have a shitty day. And he goes, yeah, look at you. You look at those tight pants. Why don't you go do more squats? And I'm like, hey, man, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. And now he's like freaking out again. He's seeing that he's not getting to me. He's like, your mommy bought you that car. And I'm like, all right, buddy, have a good day. And that was it. Fortunately, it did not come to blows. And talking to Gab about it afterwards, she's like, why didn't you just stay in the car? And I'm like, to be honest with you, I probably should have, but I also think that sometimes people fucking have it coming to them. And if it got to the point where it did get physical, maybe this is a bad way to think, guys, but I think that guy needed a fucking lesson that he shouldn't be rude to people for no reason. And some people, for whatever reason, think that they could do and say whatever they want and they could get away with it. And I think especially in 2025, some people just need to get fucked up. And I'm happy that I didn't have to go there and I didn't have to get arrested or, this didn't come to blows. Because you never know what could happen, right? I'm not sitting here trying to pretend I'm the toughest guy in the world. Anything could happen. And who knows how crazy that guy was if he had a weapon or anything like that. So anyway, my point is, if you could avoid it, avoid it. I probably should have driven away, but I didn't. Fuck that guy. And that's my story. So with that said, we're not just here to talk about my near confrontations here. We're here today to talk about getting you lean and shredded as fuck for the summer of 2025, right? And specifically over the next 90 days, if you want to lose up to 30 pounds, I want to give you the exact step-by-step framework that you can take or that you could follow to lose up to 30 pounds over the next 90 days. And if you don't have 30 pounds to lose, you could use the same exact protocol to get absolutely shredded by the end of April, right? So right now, today's January 24th today, right? January 24th, 23rd. Today's the 23rd of January. So let's just call it February, March, April 23rd. So the end of April, early May, we could be razor sharp, fucking shredded, tight, ready to attack Memorial Day weekend, baby. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here's my step-by-step process. And if you guys have a notebook, I would suggest writing these steps down so you have your blueprint ready to go. So step one. The first thing that anybody needs to do is cut out all the bullshit. So all highly processed foods and beverages, and that is including alcohol from your diet. Now, here's the deal, guys. You shouldn't be eating a ton of highly processed foods anyway. You shouldn't be drinking your calories and all those bullshit drinks. You shouldn't be drinking soda and putting a ton of sugar in your coffee anyway. And if you drink alcohol, you shouldn't be doing that often. And if you do, you don't want to have the added sugar chasers, sodas, and all that stuff, right? Because that's all extra calories. But alcohol, when you drink, is catabolic, estrogenic, and that will have an impact on how much muscle you could build or maintain. It'll have an impact on how much body fat you can lose. So all of these things. I think, with the highly processed foods, the highly palatable processed foods, they taste really fucking good. They are really dense in calories. They're very low in nutrients. Those calories add up very, very quickly, making it very difficult for you to lose body fat when you sneak that stuff in. I've discussed this before, but people talk about, as long as it fits your macros. I disagree with that approach for several reasons. For one reason, I don't think it's a good idea to eat foods that are going to be highly inflammatory and put you in that chronic state of inflammation, which will increase your chances of disease and also make it more difficult to feel good, to lose body fat. You'll get sick more often, etc. So it's not just about whether it fits your macros or not. I don't like that idea. So the other thing is, when you could cut this stuff out for an extended period of time, you really start to develop discipline and better habits around your eating. So I recommend going anywhere from a minimum of 8 weeks up to 12 weeks, 0 cheat meals dialed in. And the better you get at that, the less cheat meals you're going to have throughout the year. Sure, do I eat cheat meals throughout the holidays or, once in a while if we go out, do I have a dessert, whatever? Yes, of course, when I'm not in a specific cut phase. All right. But I do every year, I go at least 12 weeks with 0 cheat meals whatsoever. And that's when I'm cutting because I want to get lean as fast as possible, eating nutrient-dense, real foods, and I'm not going to waste calories on stupid things like have a cookie. What the fuck is a cookie going to do? Nothing. It's going to make me want more cookies. Cut them out completely. Stick to your plan. Don't drink your calories. They will add up very quickly. They will ruin, especially when you're drinking a lot of sugary beverages, you're going to get a massive spike in blood glucose or blood sugar, especially when you ingest the sugar through liquid, which is going to create a giant insulin response. And if you're doing that over and over again, it's going to create some possible insulin resistance, which could lead to type 2 diabetes, et cetera. So avoid it. Avoid it for an extended period of time. Now, what about diet soda? Now, here's the thing, okay? Some people will argue that the body recognizes these sweeteners and there's the same type of response with insulin. The body doesn't know the difference and all that stuff. Now, listen, I don't think that is the bigger problem. I don't think that that's the focus on why I tell people to cut this stuff out, rather. I think that I tell people to cut this stuff out because we know that artificial stuff, artificial sweeteners and chemicals, we know that they are linked to disease. Okay, we know that they are problematic. So why would we ingest them? Now, here's the one caveat. If you are somebody that is really overweight and you have zero experience with any of the stuff that I'm talking about right now, which is probably not you because you probably wouldn't be listening to this show. But if you're somebody who's really overweight, you eat like shit all the time, you have really bad exercise habits, you're sedentary, you drink soda all the time, okay, yes, for you, I would absolutely say you're really difficult for you to cut this soda out entirely, switch to diet soda. At least you won't get the extra calories and sugar. 100%. Why wouldn't you do that? But if you're somebody who doesn't have diet soda regularly, and you were to say to me, what's the better option? Just drinking water and maybe black coffee or green tea, or having diet soda in the mix, I would say absolutely just go with water, right? And black coffee and green tea or whatever. So cut that shit out. You don't need it anyway. It's going to help you develop more discipline, more structure. I believe in the rigidity for an extended period of time because, again, that develops discipline. That will help you develop character, and it's going to help you really gain control over this stuff. So that is step one. Now let's talk about step two. Once we get that shit out of your diet, now we're going to focus on eating 4 meals per day of real food, okay? Real food, single ingredient whole foods. Now, each one of those 4 meals is going to consist of a source of protein. Now, we're going to talk about how much in a couple more steps. But if you're somebody that is maybe new to this, just start by working this into your diet as a habit where you're just eating 4 times per day with real food sources with protein at each meal. I would say at least 2 meals or more would include a serving of vegetables. At least 2 meals or more would include a serving of fruit. And you're going to mostly be doing berries, but you could absolutely work in some other fruits as well. Organic, seasonal fruits are best. And then I would have 2 meals with a starchy carbohydrate like a sweet potato, white rice, yams, even oats, etc. Okay? Yes, you're going to get fat from some of your protein sources. So whole eggs are going to contain some fat. If you have beef, salmon, things like that, you're going to get some fat. Outside of those sources, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, some nuts, some organic natural nut butters. That's where you're going to be primarily getting your fats. Avocado too. I don't know if I said that. All right. But we just want to have that frequency. Now, the bulk of your carbohydrates should be surrounding your workout, right? So get some carbs pre, get some carbs post, right? And that's super simple that anybody can do. You don't have to do any math. I just want you to eat real food. Keep it super simple. What are some protein sources? We talked about eggs, steak, lean ground beef. I prefer leaner cuts of meat. Okay, so even when you're doing this, I'd rather you focus on 96% lean ground beef ground turkey breast, ground chicken breast, or grilled chicken breast. The leaner, the better. That doesn't mean that fat is bad, but when we are trying to get shredded, when we're trying to get lean, those excess grams of fat and excess calories add up very quickly and knock us out of our calorie deficit for the most part. So what I like to do during a cut phase is keep fat low. And again, we'll talk about specifics in just a moment. But keep fat low. You keep carbohydrates in. You keep your protein in and consistent. And once your cut is over, if you want to increase fat a little bit, that's totally fine. But I like to keep fat on the lower side during a cut so it doesn't sneak up on you and knock you out of your calorie deficit. Doesn't mean you have to cut it out entirely, but for the most part, we're probably going somewhere between 50 and 80 grams, depending on your weight, 80 grams per day. Okay. So that's step 2. Step 3. Okay. And this is something that is really overlooked, guys. Excuse me. Oh, I accidentally got a piece of ice from my iced coffee. Excuse me. So this is really overlooked. But step 3, we need to make high quality sleep a top priority. All right. So how do we do that? So first of all, why is sleep so important? Well, let's talk about from a health standpoint, right? This study, plenty of studies have shown, and we're not going to get too deep into this, but we're going to talk about reducing your risk of cancer, reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes, reducing your risk of Alzheimer's and other chronic disease goes way down when you are getting 7 to 9 hours of deep, restful, uninterrupted, quality sleep per night. Okay? So from a health standpoint alone, you should be like, okay, cool, I'm sold. But if not, let's look at from a body composition standpoint. Remember, guys, you're doing damage in the gym. You're breaking down the tissue. The only time the muscle grows and you get stronger and bigger is when you are recovering, and sleep is a big part of your recovery. Obviously, this is where you're going to release hormones like human growth hormone and testosterone. Okay, so it's part of the recovery. It's going to help you build muscle. It's also because those hormones are being released and because you're building muscle, it's going to help you burn more fat as well, because your daily caloric expenditure will go up just by building muscle mass alone. So with that being said, from a body composition standpoint, from a health standpoint, sleep is fucking important, okay? So just from the longevity piece alone, I hope that you guys are like, cool, I got you. Now, with that said, how do we make it a priority? Well, one, we get to bed on time, all right? Now, let's say we know we're going to wake up at 7 a.m., so you're like, all right, cool, I have to get to bed, in bed, by 10 p.m., all right? So that'll give me 9 hours in bed, which will probably relate to somewhere around 8 hours of actual sleep, right? But you do what works for you, okay? Now, having an evening routine is one of the best ways to start to downregulate, get into that parasympathetic state, and get yourself ready for a restful night's sleep so you can fall asleep faster and stay asleep. All right. So one thing that I like to do is cut off electronics 30 minutes, at minimum 30 minutes prior to bedtime. Now, typically for me, I like to get to bed by 10, but around 8:30, 9 o'clock the latest, my phone goes on airplane mode. Okay. I don't want to look at text messages, social media, emails, nothing like that. My phone goes on airplane mode. You can't get me. That's it. I'm done. Everybody close to me knows that. Because that's just going to stress you out. If a stressful text message or email comes in or anything like that, you get a negative comment on social media, we don't want to have stress before you go to bed. So just turn that shit off. Try to separate yourself from the electronics. So that includes TV. So I will watch TV in the evening. Phone goes on airplane mode, 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'll usually watch TV up until about 9:30, 9:45 even. But then after that, some people do very well with doing a little brain dump or some journaling, taking a hot shower. I used to give the advice of giving a cold shower, but shout out to Andrew Huberman. I actually found out that it's the opposite, because you do want to be cool when you go to sleep, but if you heat the surface of your skin with a hot shower, your body is actually going to work to cool the surface of the skin, which is going to bring your body temperature down. I used to look at it the opposite way, where, say, take a cold shower before bed to bring body temperature down, but it's the opposite, because if the surface temperature on your skin is cold, the body is going to work to warm it up. So you have the opposite effect. So I learned that recently. So my apologies for giving the wrong advice there for probably the last decade. But anyway, taking a warm shower, try to relax a little bit, making your room cold and dark. All right, cold and dark is really important. So 67 degrees or colder, blackout curtains, no electronics, even like a little bit of light from an alarm clock or something like that, no good. You want your room to be totally, totally dark, where you can't see your hand in front of your face, or any other light. If you're going to keep notifications on your phone, which I don't recommend, I would say turn that son of a bitch over and make sure that it's on silent, so you don't get any sounds or anything like that could wake you up. Also, cut out caffeine at least 6 hours before bed, and stop eating 3 hours before bed. Now, the reason that you want to cut out caffeine far in advance of going to bed is because caffeine has a half-life. Okay, and I think that half-life lasts about 5 hours. So let's just say you have 100 milligrams of caffeine at 5 p.m. Well, at 10 p.m., you're still going to have 50 milligrams of caffeine in your system, which makes it hard to fall asleep, right? So try to cut caffeine a little bit earlier. Same thing with eating, guys. If your digestive system is working, you're going to be putting blood into the digestive system. Heart's going to be working a little bit harder. That could affect your sleep as well. So try to stop your eating about 3 hours before bed, but do the best you can there, okay? I'd rather you get your 4 meals in rather than skipping meals, but just do your best to try to cut it off 3, at the very least 2 hours before you go to sleep. All right? So let's make that sleep a priority. Step 4, do 3 high-quality strength training sessions per week for just 60 minutes per session. All right, so let's talk about high-quality strength training. Okay, so first off, we don't want to do random mindless shit. That's what most people do. They go to the gym and they just train exercises they like to do or that they've learned in the past. Some guys I know just like to get their heart rate through the roof, so they just like to sweat, and they just do a whole bunch of stupid shit, like 1,000 box jumps and 1,000 burpees and 20 dumbbell push presses. And guys, all that is doing is wrecking your joints and driving your heart rate up. Just because your heart rate is through the roof and because you're sweating more, that does not mean that it's going to help you lose more body fat. It's actually the opposite, because those workouts will drive cortisol, the stress hormone, through the roof, which makes it harder to lose body fat. It's also wrecking your joints. So you don't want to train like that. Okay, look at the leanest people on the planet. Look at bodybuilders. They do not do that shit. Okay? And if you want to say, I want to be more functional, bro, stop it. Stop it. Because that term functional has gotten so fucked up over the years that is not what functional training is. You know what functional training means? It means that we're doing mostly free weight exercises and we're training the fundamental human movement patterns. The squat pattern, the hinge pattern, a horizontal push, a horizontal pull, a vertical push, a vertical pull, a lunge, and a carry. I think I got them all there, okay? Let's see, push, pull, lunge, squat, hinge, carry. Yeah. And using the right exercises for you based on your structure, your experience, your injury history, your pain, your joint pain, stuff like that. All that stuff needs to get factored in. You want to use joint-friendly exercises that won't wreck you. And you want to train those patterns. That is functional. okay? Because you're going to develop balance, you're going to develop mobility, you're going to build muscle, you're going to develop strength. When you're doing that other shit, I don't know what the fuck that is, right? It just became popular through like HIIT classes and boot camps and social media videos and CrossFit and things like that. But that's not how you guys are going to build muscle, get strong, get lean, get jacked, and do all the things you want to do, look better, feel better, perform better. You only do that by training the way that we just talked about, right? Now, another thing you got to consider is, okay, so let's look at our scale of progression here. So the first scale, or the first step of the scale, is exercise selection. So choosing the right exercises for you based on the things that I just mentioned, like your structure, injury history, and things like that, okay? So exercise selection. Now from there, the second step is mastering technique, right? Becoming a master of each of those movement patterns that we just discussed, okay? Now, once you master the technique, so let's just use a squat, for example. So exercise selection on a squat pattern, let's say you use a pendulum squat. Okay, cool. That's our exercise for you based on your structure, your level, and all that stuff. Okay, now we're going to master the technique. We don't want to be bouncing in the bottom. We don't want zero eccentric control. We don't want your heels coming off. Like, we want the squat pattern itself to look clean, and you need to take some time to learn that pattern so we know exactly what we're doing, right? Pendulum squat's going to target the quads a little bit more, so getting a good, nice contraction in the quadriceps, having the knees travel forward a little bit more on the descent, really focusing on mastering that movement pattern. All right, so once you get that, the third step is now effort. So this is really big when it comes to weight selection and the RPE scale. So RPE is the rate of perceived exertion, right? Meaning, on a scale from 1 to 10, if 1 is the easiest, 10 is the hardest, right? So let's look at that scale. Let's say a set on the pendulum squat calls for a set of 10. And I do my set of 10, but I could have done another 5 to 10 reps. The RPE, the rate of perceived exertion, is like a 1 or 2, right? Really, really low, maybe 3. Now, if on the flip side, the set calls for a set of 10, and on that 10th rep, my veins are popping out of my head and I'm barely getting up for that last rep, just sneaking it out. Barely getting it, gun to my head, I could not do another rep. Well, that would be a 10. Your sets should be somewhere between 7 to 10, right? And for the most part, kind of right in the middle, like 8 or 9, right? Yeah, and maybe not 7, maybe 8 or 9 for the most part, okay? And sometimes we could push it to failure to that level 10. I'm not talking about your warm-up sets. I'm talking about your working sets. And that's where most people go wrong. I see this all the time. People use a weight for a set of 10 that they could have done 20 with. It's like, what do you think that's going to do, right? You had a million reps left, okay? On the flip side, when people, for whatever reason, when they want to test their bench press or something like that, they want to max out, now they go with a weight that they can't even do for 1, right? So you don't want that either. You want to find that sweet spot on that RPE scale, somewhere around 8 or 9, okay? So that's the effort section, okay? Now, we have exercise selection, we have technique mastery, we have effort. Now, the fourth step here on our scale of progression is progress, all right? Or progress. So how do we progress? We follow the progressive overload principle. So that means using the same exercise for simplicity, let's say the pendulum squat, and we have 3 plates on there for a set of 10. And let's just say it calls for 3 sets of 10. And on week 1, I use 3 plates, and the RPE on set number 1 is an 8 or a 9, and I get 10 reps, and I stay the same weight. I do it again on set 2, 3 plates, and then again 3 plates on set number 3. All right. Next week, my goal should be, since I got 10 across the board with the same weight, My goal should be to get at least 3 plates and maybe a 10 or maybe a 25, just depending on the person. Maybe just a 10-pound plate, maybe just a 5-pound plate that you add for your set of 10, right? But you want to be progressing. Now, let's just say if you can't go up in weight. So let's rewind. Week 1, you use 3 plates, and I get 10 on the first set. I get 10 on the second set, but I only get 8 on the third set. Well, on week number 2, I'm going to stick with 3 plates, and I'm going to try to get 10 on the first, 10 on the second, which I know I could do because I already did it, and then I'm going to try to get 9 or 10 on the third, and that would be progressively overloading as well, okay? So if you're going up in reps with the same weight for the prescribed rep range, or if you are going up in weight, that's the progressive overload principle, and that's what you need to pay attention to, which is why it's so important to write down your weights, write down the reps that you accomplish with that weight, so this way we know what we're doing next week, okay? Now, the 5th and final step of that scale of progression is consistency. You need to be consistent with everything that I just mentioned, okay? So that's what the scale looks like, and that's quality strength training in a nutshell. Typically, I like to stick to a training program for about 3 weeks before having a new cycle. So typically, I like 12-week cycles, all right? A 12-week program, rather. And I'll have 4 3-week cycles that I'll do throughout that 12-week program. So it's each program is building off of the next one, all right? One other thing to add real quick, guys, is you want to take full recovery in between sets, especially if the goal is to get stronger, which it should be for most of you guys listening. Anywhere from 90 seconds to 3 minutes in between your sets. Most people don't do enough of this. Again, they want to just keep their heart rate high, but you don't get strong that way, okay? So we want to hit a set, we want to hit it hard, and then we want to recover from it, all right? Keep that in mind. Step 5. Let's make walking a bare minimum, an absolute bare minimum, 7,500 steps per day and non-negotiable. That's 7 days per week, rain or shine, 20 degrees or not. Get your ass out there, get moving. 7,500 steps per day should be a non-negotiable staple for you, okay? It's going to help with recovery, and it's going to help with cardiovascular health, and it's going to help increase your daily caloric expenditure, so it really helps with fat loss just overall as a whole, okay? So we don't have to talk too much about that. Fucking walk 7,500 steps per day. Your phone will track it. Some of you guys have Apple Watches and all types of gadgets. Just keep an eye on it. You don't have to be like so set in stone where if you saw like I did 7,499 steps today, everything's ruined. Don't be a psychopath either, okay? But aim for somewhere around 7,500 steps per day of minimum or more, okay? Step 6. You're going to supplement your strength training with 2 to 3 days of conditioning for 20 to 30 minutes, and you're going to vary between moderate intensity or low intensity and high intensity. And I'm talking about real high intensity, not the high intensity interval classes that you've heard about. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. So first off, the added cardio, sure, it's going to help you burn more calories, which could add to your calorie deficit, and it can help you burn more fat. But that's not necessarily why it's important to do cardio, okay? Because if your diet is locked in, your diet's going to be the biggest thing that gets you lean, okay? And then if you're doing your strength training, you're building muscle, that's going to increase your metabolic rate over time. So you're going to be burning more calories at rest, and that's fantastic. That increases your daily caloric expenditure. Now, cardio will help you burn some more calories, but that's not necessarily why we do it. We do it for optimal health, okay? So the moderate intensity that we're talking about, the low to moderate intensity, that's the zone 2 cardio that you probably heard about, okay? Zone 2 cardio, we want to maintain that a steady heart rate in a range for 30 to 60 minutes. Here's an easy way to do that. You're going to find your max heart rate, okay? Max heart rate is 220 minus your age, okay? So you do 220 minus your age, and then you're going to take 70% of that number. You're going to stay there for the duration of your zone 2 cardio session. So Since I'm bad at math, let me bust out my calculator. So 220 minus your age. Okay, so I am, let's just say 40, right? So 220 minus 40 if you're 40 years old. All right, so that will give you a max heart rate of 180 beats per minute. So all you need to do now to find your zone 2 range is take that 180, multiply it by 0.7, all right? And that's 126 beats per minute. You're going to stay around there for the duration of your zone 2 cardio session. And that's it. You can do any activity that you want, guys, preferably something that's low impact. So if you want to do a elliptical, if you want to do a bike, if you want to swim, if you keep track of your heart rate, anything that's really low impact, that's what I like to do for this. It's great for recovery. It's also great for cardiovascular health, okay? That's most important because the way your body, your heart, and cardiovascular system responds to strength training and high-intensity work is different than the way it responds to the lower intensity work, okay? One of the differences being, so the heart is constantly going to be filled and pumping blood at a steady pace. Blood pressure doesn't necessarily go up super high like it does when you're doing, hard strength training or true high intensity work. So you're just flowing blood through the entire vascular system and through the heart. So the heart develops what's called eccentric hypertrophy, and eccentric cardiovascular hypertrophy. So the heart is now growing by the constant flow of blood and maintaining this steady state, okay? So it's strengthening the heart in that way versus when you're doing high-intensity work, that's driving blood pressure up. The heart rate is beating with more your pressure behind it, which will enhance or train the cardiovascular system differently than the zone 2 work, right? Or the low intensity work. So that's why it's important to have both, okay? So when you do your zone 2, that's how you do that. When you do high intensity, there's different forms of high intensity, but we won't get too lost in the weeds with this. Let's just talk, we won't get lost into energy systems and, doing alactic work and stuff like that. I've done a podcast on that in the past. I could certainly do another one on energy systems if you would like, but let's keep it simple today. For your high intensity work, guys, you want to do a work period from, let's just say 5 to 10 seconds with 100% intensity. And then you want to recover from it, and then you want to repeat. So a great example is hill sprints or sprinting up bleachers. The reason I like that is because when you sprint on the flat ground, if you haven't done that in years, you'll probably pull a hamstring. You may even pull a hip flexor, and that's no good. All right, we don't want to get you hurt. So you take a full good warm up, and we use a hill or we use bleachers. We warm up, we do some build up reps, and then we get into our working sets. And maybe you do 10 sets of a work period of anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. You walk down, you recover for 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then you repeat. Okay, and maybe we do 10 sets of that, and you build upon it each week. But that would be just a very simple, generic example of how you could do your high-intensity work. And what I would do is, if you're doing 3 strength training days per week, I would do 2 of the zone 2 days per week, 1 high-intensity day per week, and then 1 day you just do your walking. You could do hiking that day. You could focus on getting a massage, something like that. You'd maybe just take off. You're still going to get your steps in. You're still going to walk. But that's how I like to set it up for the most part, okay? Step 7, all right? Here's where we have to bust out your calculators a little bit. So we're going to optimize your meal plan by eating. So now you got your nutrition habits in check. You've been doing it, let's just say, for 4 weeks. We're rolling. Okay. Now let's optimize what you're already doing. Let's take the same foods that you're already eating, the same setup, and let's make it better. So you're going to do that by eating 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight per day. So if you weigh 200 and your goal body weight is 180, we're going to eat 180 grams of protein per day. You're going to have 1 gram of carbohydrate per pound of your goal body weight per day. Okay, so same thing. If it's 180, you're having 180 grams of carbohydrate. And that's going to be from the unprocessed or minimally processed starches, like we talked about, it's going to be from fruit, and some is going to be from vegetables. And then we're going to do 0.4 grams times your body weight or times your goal body weight of fat. Okay, so if your goal body weight is 180, you're going to do 0.4 times 180. And that's your starting point. Okay, that's going to be your starting macros. So if you're 200 pounds, your goal body weight is 180. We're going to do 180 grams of protein, 180 grams of carbohydrate, and then whatever 0.4, what's 40% of 180? Let's see. So 0.4 times 180, it would be 72 grams of fat to start. Okay. Now, we could adjust based on how you feel. When you get really good at, just you're dialed in with your calories, you're feeling good. And we come to a point where you hit a plateau. Now we could work in a carb cycle where I like to do 3 low days, 1 high day, but we'll save that topic for a different day. Again, I could do a full podcast on a carb cycle, but that's the gist of it. I think I have done one on that in the past too. All right. So it's as simple as that, guys. People like to overcomplicate the macros, but I always like to do food quality first. Okay, get all bad habits out the window, get all the processed bullshit out, get that in check for 3 to 4 weeks. Now let's dial in with specific macros. That's how I like to do it. If you're already eating pretty clean, then of course we could go right to specific macros and maybe even, get right into carb cycling, depending on you and where you're at. Okay, but those are just baseline numbers where we could play around with and start. Okay, now step 8. Most of you guys may not even consider this when it comes to losing body fat, okay? Most people don't. But here's what I want you to do. Get away from negative people. Stop watching the fucking news. Stop mindlessly scrolling on social media. Turn all notifications off of your phone. Stop answering unscheduled random phone calls. Take full control over your schedule and spend more time with the people that you love, that make you happy, that want to see you win. Guys, I cannot tell you how important that is for a million reasons. One, all of those things drive stress hormone through the roof. And we already talked about how that's detrimental to fat loss and just to your overall health, right? Cortisol levels just stay chronically elevated. No good. Okay. But they also will deter you from making better decisions. If you have negative, toxic people and your stress hormone's elevated, well, we know that when your stress hormone's elevated, that comes with stress eating too, right? It comes with making a decision based on how you feel in the moment versus the long-term gains and the long-term goals that you want to achieve. Same thing with news. It becomes toxic. It puts you into this fear mindset. You're worried about getting murdered on the subway or the horrible shit that's going on or all this political confrontation and conflict and fighting and who said what to who and arguing with people on social media. Holy fuck, is that just a toxic soup of nonsense? There is nothing that is going to waste your fucking time more than arguing with a stranger on Facebook or Twitter or whatever fucking platform you're on. There is nothing more time wasting than that. Don't engage in that nonsense. If people are talking shit on you on social media and you never met that person, you know what you do? You fucking block them and delete the comment and move on with your day. You gotta have that thick skin. Who gives a fuck what people think? Listen, who cares what they think about you and who cares what their beliefs are? People are entitled to it, and maybe you completely disagree with them. Maybe they couldn't be more wrong. But who cares, right? If that's you think you're going to change their mind by writing a comment on something that they posted on social media? You think you're going to really persuade them that way or get them to see things differently? No. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't voice your opinion if you have one on something that you feel strongly about. I'm not saying you shouldn't stand up and have a voice. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a discussion about these things, but when it leads to just negative arguing with fucking crazy people on social media, it's going to go nowhere. And even in person, if somebody's willing to have a discussion, if I disagree with somebody on something and willing to have an open discussion, like I want to hear what they have to say with an open mind. Like maybe I'm looking at something differently and I don't see their point, and they get me to see something where I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way. And hopefully that person will do the same thing. They'll look at it the same way. But when people come into it, they're guarded, they're defensive. They're just like, they're not interested in hearing what you have to say. I'm not interested in having that conversation, like at all. I don't give a fuck. It's not going to be productive. It's not going to go anywhere. Why would I waste my time? So move on from that stuff. Surround yourself with people who are like-minded. Surround yourself with people who will support you on your goals. Surround yourself with people who are positive. This is why it's so important to be a part of a community. What we have at TTS is we have a community of like-minded people, all different ages, demographics, people, but I'm sure they don't agree on it. They don't agree on everything. But guess what? When you come in for that hour, you're just working on yourself and you're pushing the person next to you. So find a community like that where the one thing we can agree on is let's get fucking better today. Let's move forward today. And let's put all this other shit, all our differences aside. Let's not pay any attention to that. So whether it be a gym like TTS or a jiu-jitsu or martial arts gym, like I train here. I just moved down to Red Bank in June, so I just started training about 6 weeks ago at Garden State Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's Red Bank. It's on what town is that in? Where's I think is it the Red Bank or where's Nicholas Barrel and Roost, Ming? What town is that?
That is technically Red Bank.
That is technically
Red
Bank. So
it's
a little bit further down from that. I'm not sure if it's still Red Bank. Anyway, shout out.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's a great community, and like even for me, like learning a skill from people that are way better at it than I am, applying myself, working towards a common goal. Like that's something where now I'm focusing on something positive. I have people that are on the same path and on the same mission. In that sense of just getting better at jiu-jitsu, learning the martial art, having these communities. That's why jiu-jitsu gyms are so strong and growing so rapidly. One of the reasons why. The other reason is because they teach you how to strangle the fuck out of people, and that's always nice too. That helps you with all these other things. Talking about get the stress out, and you got somebody that is trying to strangle you and you're trying to strangle them, and you guys are totally cool with one another, but you're going all out for 6 minutes or whatever it is, trying to essentially kill one another. That helps get your ego in check. That helps keep you calm. Like, I don't want to fight it. I had jiu-jitsu this morning. The last thing I want to do is fight somebody because I had a roll with, I guess probably 5 or 6 other savages that were trying to kill me. And I'm good. I'm very calm right now. So anyway, guys, the people that are surrounding you, your inner circle, and the content that you consume, it all matters. It affects your body composition. It affects your state of mind. It affects your health. And just your overall overall outlook on life. So that's a very overlooked component. Now, the 9th step, which is one of the most important things, kind of coincides with what I just said for step 8. Find a coach that you respect, find a coach that you trust, and have them teach you how to do this the right way, have them coach you, have them guide you, and hold you accountable throughout the process. I'm not just talking about any friggin' schmuck that has the word coach in their Instagram bio. I'm talking about somebody who has a proven track record, somebody who has helped hundreds, if not thousands of people, somebody who has been doing this for decades, helping busy, type A, strong-minded, successful men like you get lean, get strong, get jacked, get mentally strong, emotionally strong. Find someone that will help you become the 2.0 version of yourself. Find someone that will help you see that achieving your fitness goal is not just about the external result. It is about who you become in the process of achieving that goal. Guys, if you feel that I am the coach that could potentially help you, then you might be the perfect fit to work with me in my 90-day online coaching program. It's called the Lean SOB Project. It is very, very intimate. I take a small group of men 90 days at a time. We work together on your training. We work together on your nutrition. You're working with me one-to-one. So I am there for you every step of the way. We're building out everything that you need to do, your habits, your lifestyle, your mindset. We look into everything that you're going to need to make a true and real transformation over a 90-day period and beyond that. So if you're interested in working with me, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Chris_Tutela, Tutela. Shoot me a DM with the word lean. Just send me that DM. We'll chat. We'll see if it's the right fit. If we feel that I can help you, what we'll then do is we'll hop on a strategy session, which we'll do on Zoom. We'll meet up. We'll go over your goals. We'll go over your obstacles. We'll see, if this is going to really be a good fit for you. And if it is, then we could work together. And if it's not a good fit for whatever reason, you walk away from that call with with a little blueprint and some information on what you can do to move forward and to hit your goal. I don't want to take you on as a client if you're not a good fit. I truly mean that. Like, I'm not just here to try to sell you into doing something that might not be ideal for either of us. I want to make sure it's the perfect fit because I'm very particular about who I work with. So you got to be driven, you got to be motivated, you got to be locked in. And so this is a coaching program that is like none other out there. Again, it's 90 days of working one-to-one with me, helping you smash your fucking goals this year and become the strongest version of yourself. So again, if you're interested, shoot me a DM on Instagram at Chris_Tutela with the word lean. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to all of you who have left a 5-star review on iTunes or have left a written review. If you have a minute to do that, if you haven't yet, it would mean the world. It really helps us grow this show. And speaking of growing the show, another thing that you can do to help out, if you find this valuable, share it with a friend who this could help. If you know somebody that wants to get lean over the next 90 days, share this episode with them. The information here could truly change their life. I really feel that way, and hopefully you do too. So I want to thank you guys. As always, I love and appreciate you, and I will catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. Peace.